One of the things I talk a lot about on the show is oil, and another is the Arab Spring. Well, I asked Krauthammer about both subjects. Here's what he said. You mentioned that one of Obama's 3 reforms he wants to bring to America is on energy. He tried cap and trade. He didn't talk about global warming in the debates, but in his election night speech, he used those words, global warming. What do you think Obama will, you mentioned administrative changes. What about, say, Canada, the oil sands and the Keystone XL pipeline? Do you expect that to be approved?
These guys are a bunch of lefties when it comes to energy.
But they're buying it from Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. I mean, they're going to buy oil. My point is, you know, if you're not buying it from Canada, you're buying it from conflict oil countries.
I never said lefties were smart.
Huh. Well, these guys are smart.
Well, they're smart in winning elections. They're not that smart in running a country. Otherwise, our economy wouldn't have the worst recovery since the Second World War. They're not good at governing. They're great at running.
Let me interrupt you.
Sure, go ahead.
Some true believers believe in degrowth, believe we're consuming too much, that we're too energy intense. So how do you know that this is a failure? Maybe this is the carbon tax in effect, the economy slowing down.
Oh, well, I'm not saying they won't be astute in trying to enact what they enact. They've already succeeded in killing coal through regulation. We will never have a new coal plant ever built in the United States, ever, under these regulations. And they know that. No, they are successful at shutting down what they want to shut down. All I'm saying is that the effect on the country, on the economy, on energy will be disastrous. We have a chance. We, in North America, you and us, have stumbled upon one of the great, treasure troves of all time, the oil shale and oil gas. This is the Saudi Arabia of this century. And you're exploiting it in a way that I think is going to incredibly strengthen Canada. And we have an administration run by lefties who are in hock to the radical environmentalists, who in the name of global warming will do everything to slow that down. They may succeed politically. I think on Keystone, which is a decision Obama made which is so without merit, it is so nakedly political and so illogical that eventually I think he's going to have to approve it. I cannot imagine that he'll be able to resist the pressures to approve it. But I think their next step after killing coal is going to be an attempt to kill natural gas through restrictions on shale oil, on drilling, horizontal drilling and fracking. They may not succeed in that. It could be illegal under our Constitution. So the courts will decide that. But they will try that, and they're going to try a carbon tax, which will fail, and they will likely fail in the courts in trying to restrict the natural gas explosion. So I think despite their efforts, they will slow us down. They'll hold up the permitting. They'll try to regulate, to arrest the development of energy, but they won't succeed in the long run. And I think in the long run, you and us, United States and Canada, will work together to produce essentially North American energy independence. So before you build a pipeline to the Pacific to send to China, wait a few months. I think you're going to get the Keystone approved.
I want to talk about the Middle East a little bit. Egypt, largest Arab country, has a new pharaoh who is also part of the Muslim Brotherhood, cousin to Hamas. Is this good news in Obama's world? Is this foreign policy working? Or would he call Egypt a success? Would America call Egypt a success?
Doesn't the Bible say, and a new pharaoh arose in Egypt? History repeats itself at about 3,000-year intervals. Yes, there is, although he may not, this is Morsi, the head of the Brotherhood, president who's trying to monopolize all power. He may not succeed. Remember, he only won the election by 52 to 48. It isn't as if it was a landslide, so he's sort of on the knife edge. But sure, the Brotherhood is committed to an Islamist state, and basically they have no interest in democracy. To them, it's instrumental. It's a way to achieve power. It's nothing in and of itself that they wish to value. And they would like to see one man, one vote, one time, which is what happens in those countries. But the U.S. and the world have leverage. Remember, on the day that Morsi helped to broker the truce ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, they received a tentative approval of a $4.8 billion loan from the IMF. If we don't want to see that happen, U.S., we can stop it. They also need the $1 billion a year of direct aid and the $2 billion of the military aid. So we have a lot of leverage over them, and if we exert it intelligently, which is a big if, I think we might at least steer him to moderation and to rescind, at least in part, the power grab.
You know, you talk about billions of dollars, and Saudi Arabia has provided financing to Egypt also, but Iran is there. I mean, the sanctions are hurting them, but not so much that they don't still have a lot of money. Isn't Iran displacing the United States as the regional superpower? Aren't Arab regimes that are nervous looking which way the wind is blowing and thinking it's safer to be an ally of Iran, more reliable than to be an ally of the United States?
They're thinking that, but they're not ready to jump yet. It will depend entirely on whether Iran goes nuclear.
Was the Israel-Hamas war a prelude to a larger conflict with Iran?
I think from the Israeli perspective, it was a dry run of what to do if and when they attack Iran and they get the inevitable retaliation from Hezbollah in the north and Hamas in the south. I think they've shown themselves that they can handle the challenge from Hamas, that Iron Dome can make whatever Hamas has to throw at them a nuisance, but not in any way a lethal threat.
Well, how about the bomb itself? I mean, it's
the bomb
been
itself
6 years
is the
since
issue.
George Bush kicked the can down the road, a whole term of Obama kicking the can down the road. Europe isn't doing anything other than sending strongly worded letters of apology. Will we actually have a physical act to stop them, or just endless negotiation?
No, it won't be endless negotiations, because we're coming up to the crunch. That'll be in spring and summer. Bibi Netanyahu made very clear in his UN speech, which was about a month or two before the election, he gave Obama an olive branch. He said, we're going to extend our red line, our deadline, to spring and summer, after which Israel feels it will not have the capacity. Its weaponry will not have the ability to dig deep into the mountain outside of Qum where they're doing all the centrifuges. After that point, it's out of Israel's capacity, so Israel can never again stop the
Does
bomb.
Israel, I mean, we don't know the secret military details. Do you think that Israel even has the capacity today with Iran's top-ranked, Russian-supplied air defenses?
I think air defenses will crumble before Israel. I'm not worried about the air defenses. I'm worried about whether or not Israel has the munitions
To get in the mountain?
the munitions to get through, or the long-range aerial refueling capacity to get there and back, and to get there and back.
Do you
It has
think
a small air force. It has to do repeated sorties.
Do you think Israel will do it? Do you think, or would America
Let me
prefer
put
to
it this
do
way.
it?
Well, no, America would not prefer to do it. Obama doesn't even want to contemplate it. However, the view I have is if Israel feels it has the capacity, meaning if the Prime Minister and Barak, the Defense Minister, feel that they can do it physically, set back Iran a couple of years. We're not looking for a destruction. All we want is a couple of years if you're an Israeli. If they feel they can put it back for a couple of years, they have the capacity, they will do it if nothing happens between now and April or summer. So I have very little doubt that is true. Bibi Netanyahu is not going to preside over a country that allows Iran to go nuclear if Israel has the capacity to put a stop to it, or at least slow it down. There's only one condition under which that would change. If the United States gave Israel an ironclad guarantee, secret but ironclad, that if Israel allows the deadline to pass, after which Israel can't strike, the United States will strike if Iran does not disarm by a certain time. In other words, the U.S., with the incredible refueling capacity and the munitions, the huge amount of munitions that can drill deep down and then to go through the first hole to a deeper hole to blow up the Qum facility and others. The U.S. can do this at a later date than Israel. So the drop-dead date for the U.S. is maybe a year or 6 months after Israel. So Israel won't wait unless it has a guarantee the U.S. will do it.
Who would trust a guarantee from Barack Hussein Obama, the man who in Cairo in 2009 said to Iran, "We're sorry we meddled with your country in the 50s." Would Netanyahu really trust 6 million Jews, ironically that number, would he really trust that to Barack Obama?
Look, I'm not in the room, you aren't in the room. We don't know what an ironclad guarantee means. If it's an offhanded, well, we'll look at it, of course he won't buy it. If there's a serious meeting of the Israeli military and American, and the American gets the instruction to prepare to attack by a certain date, and there's, I mean, look, I don't know how to judge this, but a prime minister has to judge this. If you're Israeli prime minister and you feel that you have a guarantee from the United States to do what they can do that Israel cannot do, there's no question that what America can do would be infinitely greater than what Israel can do. And you would then have an ally in the enterprise. You wouldn't be isolated. When the retaliation happens, you got America, probably NATO on your side. That's a big calculation. If you were the prime minister and you were offered that and you had a sense that it would be honored, you would do it. So I can't say whether it would be done. I would doubt that Obama would actually make that kind of pledge, but I think it could be made, and that would be, as I say, the only circumstances under which Israel would refrain, unless it believes it doesn't have the capacity to do it.
Now you know why they call him the doctor. He actually really is a doctor. Stick around, more with Charles Krauthammer next after the break.
China is to us today what Germany was to Europe in 1900, the beginning of the 20th century. A rising, formerly have-not power. Managing the rise of China will be the challenge for this century.